edition of Our Two Cents, I might add. I'm your host, Tom Sellers. Frank will be on with us here shortly. He's going to help monitor things for me and help do the production work of this because I'm not gonna lie, I can barely walk and chew gum at the same time, let alone produce and talk. So I'm going to thank Frank for that ahead of time. Um, we normally do this at 7 o'clock, and we will on Thursdays, and we will be back this Thursday. Don't forget, last week I said we are going to be giving away some free leads, which leads me into today's special guest. Many of you over the past couple of years have heard me talk about TW3 as well as Frank and the amazing things that happen if you learn how to do it. So at that end, let me introduce somebody we're very excited to have visit with us today. Uh, Terry Wilson is somebody we've talked about. We've alluded to the actual platform, and Terry was kind enough. This is Terry Wilson we're speaking of, who put this program together 12 years ago, just about 12 years ago, give or take a month or three. Um, and if you think about that for just a second, the fact that it's lasted this long, there's got to be some reasons, and we're going to find out what some of those reasons are today. So we are, again, very excited, very happy to be able to bring TW3 to you from the eyes of its creator. Terry Wilson, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you with us today.
Hey, man, thanks for letting me hang out in your sandbox and play a little bit.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said it's good to be with Tom from Chi-Town.
It is good to be around. This is a conversation that the people in our audience, and let me say hi to a couple of them. Ted Legal, how are you, my friend? Phil Nocerino, good to see you again. Robbie Robinson is here. So it looks like a lot of us that were on the Not Done show, Not Done Yet show are here now, and I'm expecting a bunch of others. So let's get into this. I kind of want to go to the beginning of things with you, Terry.
Sure.
I am aware of the story. I've read the book, and I'm going to get back to your book in just a second. But I want to go back to the beginning. I want to know kind of where TW3 originated from, what was going on, what was your mindset like? I know the circumstances, and I want to kind of tie things together for people that are in the audience right now. With all this craziness that's going on, that perhaps there's some same thinking, and perhaps there's a need for action. So, if you would, Terry, tell us about how TW3 got started.
Yeah, you've probably heard the old cliche, necessity is the mother of all inventions. So I've been self-employed, working for myself since I was a teenager in high school. I got recruited in the cookware business of all things from a guy that used to he got recruited by a guy named Zig Ziglar that some people might be familiar with.
I have heard of that guy.
Yeah, he's an odd guy from talks funny like me, maybe a little bit from the South. But that's all I've ever known is sales and working for yourself. And I went through high school doing that and had fun, and got hired as a salesperson at a music store and became rather successful to the point where when the owners were ready to sell the business, they were looking at a 22-year-old, 23-year-old kid. Hey, do you want to buy this from us? And I got to looking at the numbers and I said, well, I could probably start my own business, even though it wouldn't have the name recognition, location, inventory, and all that other stuff. I could probably start something cheaper than I could buy this existing. So that's what I did. I went out and for, several years, became rather successful in that industry. Loved it, man. I mean, I'm a musician. I'm a salesperson. I like to talk, so, I mean, it was the perfect job. Life was great. 6-figure income, going on vacations, 22 employees. We sort of revolutionized an entire industry because at that time, we were specifically selling pianos all over the country. And a baby grand piano is not something slap a stamp on, drop it in the mail. So there was some logistical things, and that's why people didn't sell it online. So it was always a local thing. We figured out how to distribute pianos nationwide from from a dock, which would need a dock high truck, to the living room of a person who purchased it. And, because most of the time you came in on tractor trailers and you can't do residential deliveries, that heavy equipment and all that stuff. So there's a lot of logistics behind it. We solved that problem, did great. And then 2007 happened. The second quarter 2007 was this macro shift in the economy that most people didn't feel until the end part of 2007, first of 2008. But we felt it immediately because we were intimately tied to the housing market. We had about 5 or 6 heavy hitters in the country that were new home builders, and they were putting our pianos in their new homes and selling it, sort of a turnkey operation. It was furnished and it had our piano in it and all this other stuff. And so from 2007 to really the beginning of the second quarter of 2008, I didn't take a paycheck. I emptied my entire savings to keep payroll going. I was selling things off to keep people paid to the point where the first couple months I was like, well, this is just something that, there's ups and downs, there's ebb and flow in the economy. So I'm just not going to get too excited about it. But bottom line, by 2008, I'm bankrupt. Haven't drawn a paycheck, haven't paid for my house. The monies and all the assets of everything I was worth was going to just keep payroll going. And so going bankrupt, not paying for a house for a year, found myself unemployable, about to be homeless, standing in a food bank line, trying to get food for my family because I couldn't, because if you don't pay in the system, you don't get anything out of the system. That's not a judgment. That's just the way things work. So as a self-employed person, I didn't get paid through the payroll. I got paid through the profits of the business.
Right.
Excuse me. So bottom in a word, what did I feel like in that moment? I was afraid.
Absolutely.
I was worried about providing for my family as I saw cars being repossessed and homes being foreclosed on. I was scared that I couldn't find or enjoy work ever again. The greatest blessing I felt like I had early on in life was, I hear people all the time talking about, I hate my job. I hate my job. I hate my job. I hate going into work. I hate working for this guy. Tom, I never felt that way.
Right.
I loved work. I loved what I did. Now, my first job working at that McDonald's, I hated it. But then that's when Larry, the guy that I talk about in the book, the reason why the book is called You Are Worth More is because the guy came in and says, you're worth more. And it just, what are you talking about? And long and short, he recruited me into the sales. And from that point on, I loved what I did. I loved the fact that it didn't matter my age, my income, my ethnicity, my politics, my religion. Nothing mattered. If I produced, I got paid. And so I didn't have to play the game. Right. And so I loved it. And so when this thing happened in 2008, I'm scared that, my best days are behind me. I won't ever find a job that I love again. I'll have to go find something I don't. I felt anxious about every stinking decision I was making.
Sure.
Was that the right decision? We were getting foreclosed on, and what was happening? I was getting phone calls saying, hey, if you send us $1,500, we can stop the foreclosure and we'll do this and we'll file these papers. So I went and borrowed money from family, paid. I got scammed. So here I am broke. Here I am with no money. I go out and borrow money to try to save and stop this thing. And I lose that. I was depressed.
Sure. Understandably so.
I felt like I was letting everyone down.
Right.
And felt alone. It's just me. Tom's not going to help me. Miss Spelling Bee's not going to help me. There's nobody that I'm in this thing. And then lastly, to answer your question in full disclosure, I was just as pissed off as I could be. I was angry.
Absolutely.
I was mad at politicians. I was mad at the industry I was in. I was even mad at the people that used to work for me. Because I felt like, well, yeah, you off and you're collecting your unemployment. You got these benefits, and no one cares about Terry, even though I sacrificed everything to keep payroll going. So I was a miserable, hopeless person.
Right.
So that's how I felt in 2007, 2008 when everything happened. And out of that is how TW3 Well, because at the end of the day, I'm sitting there with nothing in my hands, no prospects, no way. And I had the only thing that was thrown to me was a pastor friend of mine says, with your proclivities to speak and the ability to sell, you've been in sales, why don't you get an insurance? And I said, okay, great. So I got an insurance and I figured out, okay, who am I supposed to talk to? And they said, well, go. And it's a cliche, as you know, go call your friends, family, and foes.
Yep.
So they gave me this thing called a Project 100, which is where I went around and everybody that went to high school with, went to church with, used to work with. And I'm not criticizing it, by the way. There's people that teach that, do referral marketing that way, pulling referrals. They do real well with that. But that just wasn't me, because I felt like, okay, in this one hand, the other context of my life was I was a minister, and I don't want to leverage the relationships I had with people for the gain of some sort of,
Didn't
I'm
feel
not
right.
saying, it wasn't right. I'm just saying I couldn't make it right. That's all I'm
Well,
saying. Yeah,
yeah, it
I
didn't
couldn't
feel
make it.
right.
It didn't feel right for me. I'm not saying
Right.
it wasn't right.
Right.
So I've needed to figure out how to generate leads. So I started generating leads for my insurance business using some of these tools that we still have today. And that's when it exploded, because I learned, I'd been in this business, this thing where people came to you. You always, you had this retail. It's like being a car dealer or being a music dealer, or, you had this shop that people came to. And now I'm in this environment where no one's going to hear of me unless I get out in front of them. And I got to do it with tools that will get in front of them. I got to do it in a way that's polite, that doesn't repel people, that's compelling. And so that's how TW3 was birthed. Bottom line, out of
Sure.
necessity that I've got to make $1. And then it's just evolved over the last 12 years from that.
Well, I got to tell you, from my perspective, and many others, and Miss Bellingby says, "Hey, Jerry, I would give you my last dollar, and
But
and,
she's
and
too
I would throw
kind.
in mine too." So here, but to go back to how you were in that situation, um, and out of it comes TW3. Now let's look at TW3 for a second. Like you just got done saying, you were in an environment where people come walking through the door. That was kind of the environment that I was in for 30 years.
Yeah.
So now you have to change not only how you do business, but to a large degree, you have to change who you are through the use of tools you may never have used before. So, kind of give me a mindset on that. How do you go out? And again, I kind of know the story, but so you were thinking to yourself, I got to drive leads because they're not going to come walking through the door. How do you even begin looking for the right tools?
Well, the industry I was in, opened it up to where I was going to different conferences, and I was attending at that time early on. That I think it was WebEx that was using WebEx or something like that.
Okay.
That they were doing training, and I was asking around. There was this one guy out of Virginia that worked with a company called Western and Southern Life at
Mm-hmm.
the time. It's a debit company out of Cincinnati, and
Sure.
he was their top dog. I mean, he was selling a ton of insurance, and I sort of did some investigating. What's this guy doing? And it came to my attention that he was using a digital tool called a robo dialer or predictive dialer of voice broadcast dialer. And so
Right.
that was my first tool that
Okay.
I ever engaged with. And so I just started putting X's and O's together. Okay, he's doing this. And at the time, the regulations were different. You could do what's called push one campaigns to clients, and now you have to have it opted in. But you could at the time get a cold list. And because I had a business background before, we had done what's called mailers in my previous business, where
Sure.
we would go to a company like USA Data and buy a data list and do a mail drop. And my wife's family is in printing, so I would go and I'd buy the data list. And you guys know funny man Chris Roop, that's her brother-in-law, and so
Sure.
the whole family's in printing. And I'd say, here's my data list that I want you to mail this mail drop to. And if I got 1.5%, 2% response on it, it was a win. So with those two pieces of information, knowing where to get data and knowing, okay, there's this digital tool out here called a voice broadcast dialer. I could, with my voice, call people and leave a compelling voicemail. And so it was just sales and intuition and all the training I had over the years of how to market and things of that nature. And so I would call and nothing would happen. I would call and nothing would happen. I would call and nothing would happen. And I would call and finally I'd have 2 or 3 people call back just to cuss me out. And then, you know, and
I've
eventually,
never had that happen.
but I mean, after a long, terrifying process, I finally figured out a script that worked in a particular niche in the insurance market, and that was specifically final expense. And
Okay.
so I was able to start selling final expense, which is burial. For those that aren't familiar with the insurance world, it's a policy that's sold to the senior market for their final expenses, burial and last health bills that they might have and things of that nature. Typically, they're $50,000 face value and down, and they're guaranteed issue because they're so low on face value, and the premiums are higher because it's a whole life type product. So all of that to be said, it felt right because with that particular product, it puts you in a box. Okay, these are the only type of people that the insurance company will underwrite. So you have to call this demographic, people of this age. And I would set my filters. I would buy these data lists and by the way, my data list I was buying was $100 for 1,000.
Wow.
Think about that for a second.
You betcha.
And
Knowing what I know, that's a huge amount of
thinking
money.
about what the discounts we get.
Right.
So I was burning $100 in data. I was burning $38 in dial time. So it's $138 risk that I was taking to get nothing. But I eventually got up to speed, and I'd have to go out and sell a policy, beg, borrow, steal, to rob Tom to pay, Paul, that type of stuff.
Sure.
But eventually, I just kept at it and kept at it. And when it started working, I wanted to branch out and say, I always pick the wrong horse, Tom. I always pick the wrong horse. The first product I picked was a final expense product that the company that I was selling for eventually did away with. I was like, so finally I get up to speed to be able to market this one particular product, and then they do away with it. I was like, well, crap. Now what I do? Well, there's this other company over here that says, hey, we've got these guaranteed issue health plans that we're selling to professionals like plumbers, electricians, people that need individual health insurance. It's not group plans, but individual. Okay, great. So I start marketing that and figuring out, okay, rather than talking to everybody, if I could leave a voicemail and tell them to go to a website page, and I don't know the language at the time, by the way. I'm saying, if I could
Right.
send them. And so it's one thing led to another, and the long of the short, it blew up on me. And then when people from other insurance companies said, hey, could you set this up for me and teach me how to do it? Well, that was the evolution of TW3, because then I
Okay.
said, okay, here it is. And then fast forward a couple months, years down the road, hey, Terry, I have this agency, the 5, 10, 50 agents, whatever. I would like to sell this to them rather than me being the, bottleneck of getting their leads for them. Let me just sell your tool. Could you set it up to where you set one up for them and I get a little kickback? Well, at the time I was like, I don't know. And I got to thinking, well, if I really want to sell this, I need to make it advantageous for them to sell. I need to make it profitable. So, and at the time it was $497. I said, I tell you what, you sell this, Tom, I'll give you $400 to sell it. What? I thought, yeah. And so when I did that and gave it a resale rights, and for $497, you made $400. That's when, and that happened in 2012. I haven't looked back since. It's
Sure.
just been poof. It
Right.
got out of insurance, went into real estate, and went in from that. And then we've been able to add tools. And normally we don't. And you've had to endure some upgrades this year. That's probably more rapid than it was been comfortable. But that was because of something that was thrown on us at the first of the year with our management system. But
Sure.
and we're about to release something this Wednesday. It's a game changer. We're going to have a real life CRM back there that's just going to knock your socks off.
And I know what you're talking about with what happened in terms of upgrades and things. And quite frankly, with my background, when I look at things like that, my answer is always the same. This too will pass. We'll get this figured out. So I'm not very. I'm not one who's short of patience over innovation. I welcome it, even though I know with the small amount of gray matter I have between my ears, it may take me a little longer to learn it, but I'm willing to do that. But while we're on that subject, since I've been involved, which is just a hair under 2 years now, I've seen some upgrades. I've seen some additions and innovations that have really enhanced and made how I use this platform in many cases much easier than it was the day before. So my question is, you've been doing this the better part of 12 years now. So this whole platform has changed and developed and evolved. So how do you go about the decision-making process of saying, ooh, hey, I'm onto something here. I'm going to add this. And by the way, for those who are not involved with TW3 at the moment, these upgrades have never cost us a penny. They are just part of what Terry does. But back to my question, how do you decide what kind of process do you have to go through to say, you know what, I think this is going to be a great addition for everybody?
Yeah. Well, first, I have to use it and find success with it, because all I'm doing is I'm running my business, and I'm using, and Reagan brought it up on the podcast Monday night. The beautiful thing about TW3 is there's nothing that we use or promote or advocate that we don't use ourselves. Everything from the tools to the strategies that we train you on, to the actual business model.
Right.
Matter of fact, members, I say this and it doesn't, I stop saying because I'm scared of how it comes across, but a member at TW3 makes more money selling a TW3 product than I do.
Right.
I make my money up in the aggregate, so if I can't, so what I use to sort of filter out what comes in and what doesn't is the three categories: the technical category, the value it has as a tool, and the training. And so I'm using it. And so sometimes there's things I use I don't give to my members, because number one, I think it would be way too technical for the mass to use. And if it's way too technical, then it's going to drive up our training expenditure,
Sure.
And so we have to mitigate that. But there are times where the tool is just of such value that it's just going to bring so much immense value to the client and the member if they can get their head wrapped around the technical side of it and get the training, that we'll bring it on. And so, like, for instance, Elements by TW3, that one there replaced an old landing page creation software that didn't do as much, and may have been a little, and I do mean minimally, less complicated, if you want to use that word, or technical, but you couldn't hardly do anything. The pages looked janky. You were sort of in a box as to what you could do. So we decided that that's something that we just need to bring to our members, because while they will maybe have to take an extra few minutes to figure out this one thing, in the long run, it's well worth it. And the other thing is the training we can develop. This is not something we can't do training for. And the developer themselves offers supplemental training. So we said, okay, that's a tool we need to bring on. And we did. And so we've got that and several other tools, but that's just one as an example. That tool there is the one that folks are using in the infamous step 2 and step 4. And we have step 4. We're going to have t-shirts at the conference that says I survived step 4.
And I am damn well buying one.
Exactly.
And that's when I talk about TW3, and I do often, not only for members that come on and work with me, but with businesses that I work with to help them with lead generation and marketing. The one thing that I always point to, and let me back up a step. sometimes people say, well, Tom, what is it you do with this tsellers.com thing? And you could put 3 paragraphs in there in no time at all. But I've shortened it to say this. I have been taught, and now I teach how to monetize lead generation at virtually every step. Wow, people sit back for a second, all of a sudden they want to hear more, and that's the idea. But where I was going to with this, if you get nothing more from what we're talking about here, if we don't go into each and every tool, and quite frankly, we don't have the time to, the one thing that you should take away from this is this. No matter how technical you are, and I'm just a couple of trips around the moon from 60, so I did not start with a computer. You'd mentioned last night your day was VHS, mine was black and white TV.
Right.
The point I'm making with that is this. There is so much training involved with this platform. Not only that is right there in the platform, but the webinars that happen every week, the help you get from your personal trainer, that's right, personal trainer, mentor, and the guidance you get from Terry himself, because he's the one who leads these weekly webinars. So my point is, and this might be short-sighted for a lot of people, if you can't learn how to do this, it's because you're not trying. I hate to say it that way, but that's the reality of it. If I can get through step 4, and those of us in TW3 know what I'm talking about. If I can get through TW3 and none of my hardware got thrown to a wall, anybody can.
Yeah, I mean, because just everybody has different learning styles because their personality types are different. And so what we've tried to do is hit every personality type that we possibly can. Some of you, we're going to have it illustrated to you and just seen. So there's video. Some are going to, hey, I just need this written down. There's supplemental ebooks and PDF files that you'll see things written down. Some of you says, I'm just the type of person I have to have someone talk to. Well, you've got your personal trainer, and we even have supplemental training like with the, I don't want to give any one member out, but there's and something else that's just being released this Wednesday is the membership marketplace, where even other supplemental things from other members you can access. So there's going to be a way, and then there's live trainings and there's ticket support. So, is it pick up the phone, get your answer right then and go? No. You are self-employed. You do have to take what's given. You have to pick the book up and read it. And then if you don't like reading the book, get the audio version. If you don't like the audio version, get the movie version. If you don't like the movie version, come once a week and hear the story, the author of the book. You got to find what works for you, but it's there. It's there.
Right. And like I say, to me, the number of ways that we learn how to monetize things that we do. For example, I came in 2 years ago as a one-trick pony. I had one business with one product, and came from a background of people walking through the door. I had no idea how to get them there. I knew what to do with them once they were there. And I've since learned that I don't have to make 100 phone calls a day and hope to get one appointment maybe next week. I don't have to wear my shoes out pounding on doors to get thrown out or told no soliciting. 100 years ago when I first got into sales, that's what I did. I also sold cookware and luggage door to door. Not for Zig Ziglar, for a guy named Larry Hahn out of Atlanta. But there's some pain in that I no longer have to feel. So moving along a little bit. So we see where this was born, where it came from. So let's talk about today a little bit. Now I know there's a lot of, I don't like to hype up pain, though I see that there is some. I see with what's going on right now, a lot of misinformation, a lot of misdeeds, a lot of everything. But how that affects everybody individually, people need to hear something positive.
Yeah.
So let's go into some positive. Now, I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you, in all of the craziness that we've had in the last couple of months,
yeah,
How's TW3 been doing?
From a financial standpoint, we're 28% higher than what we were this time last year. Second quarter of last year compared to this quarter of this year, we're 28% higher. So we're on a growth pattern.
Mhm.
From a membership standpoint, it seems like we have more members making more money than ever before. Typically, we would have, if you had 10 members come in, you would have probably 3 of them make money in their 30, 60, 90, and then you would see another 2, 3 make money after that, and then you would see either someone wane off or something, because our retention rate company wide has been around that 75, 80 percentile. Okay.
Sure.
Over, and we measure that by a year span, by the way.
Right.
And success rates, like one of our top producers down in Atlanta is a guy named Joe. He's a retired guy. I think he's in his late 70s now, early 80s. I mean, he can't spell computer, and he said he made his money. He owned several different chain restaurants, and so he's from the restaurant. And he got home, he got bored, and he says, "I got to do something with my life. I'm just not going to sit here." And so he got involved with TW3, and he just fell in love with the product and the trainings and stuff like that. And his approach and process is very, very simplistic. Add copy straight to phone to close. I mean, that's Joe, but he's an old pro, and that's what he does. And now it's not scalable. I think you got to have some of these tools to automate to be able to be scalable. But I said all that to say we've got a lot more people making sales, and company wide, we've got a lot, 28% increase during the pandemic. Come on. I mean, that's just, if you would have asked me this back in February, and I'll just be honest with you, I was scratching my head saying, okay, how's this going to work?
Right.
What's going to happen? Because I'm not a prophet. I don't know. I'm not a soothsayer. I'm not a fortune cookie guy. I don't know. I mean, I had a feeling we'd be good. I had a feeling everything was going to work out. I had some inclinations just based on some of our top producers and what they were doing. I was like, okay, but I didn't know if it's going to, I just be transparent with you, Tom. I didn't know if it's going to be a mass exodus.
Sure.
I didn't know if everybody's just going to get scared to death and cancel their memberships and walk off, which could have happened,
Right.
but no, our retention rate's gone up. Our involvement and engagement has gone up. More people are making more money, and company wide we're making. So yeah, it's I think for such a time as this, I mean, the TW3 was born in a moment like this, and it seems to thrive in moments like this.
And that's, do you attribute that? Because I know I've had people say, well, and backing up a step, there's a lot of companies I'm aware of that are primarily online. Some of them are MLMs, and all are reporting increases across the board over the last couple of months, which from a logic standpoint, there's a lot of people at home with nothing else to do.
Right.
And they got to create an income. They're not going to get unemployment. They're not going to get PPE either. They've got to find another way.
Right.
So my question is, I think, again, I kind of know the answer to this, but a lot of those same companies I'm talking about are already kind of waffling on, well, I wonder how much of this new business we're going to lose when the world opens up again.
Well, I think you compare our numbers, and in full disclosure, we're not an MLM.
Absolutely.
That's not a judgment. That's just a matter of fact. And who says that? The Federal Trade Commission says that. Why did they say that? Because I had to submit all of my business paperwork and everything of how we were setting this company up. Back when it was set up, if you remember the story back about 25 minutes ago, me telling it, I was in insurance when this thing was started. And as I got into insurance, I got my securities license and I got my broker's license. And it's a federal law that you can't own anything that they deem as MLM, network marketing, and they use words like pyramid schemes or anything like that, because you've probably read reports about people that were selling Ponzi schemes in the securities market and all that. So you can't own something like that. So this is not one of those. It's empirically not. That's not to say that they're bad or you shouldn't be in one. But if you compare our business to those other types of businesses, we already have a higher retention rate because most of those guys, they churn business, and 85-90% of them, I've read reports say that in 90 days they're gone. This is not that. And I think a lot of it has to do with, think about it, if you get involved with this peel, thrill, lotion, or potion type business, and it's an MLM, how do you make money in those business? Two ways: sell the product, recruit others.
Right.
So if you don't sell the product or you don't recruit others, there's no value in it. At TW3, you can sell the product, you can recruit others as you're selling the product, but about 60% of our membership don't ever resell it. They're using the product.
Right.
See, that's the variable. That's the secret sauce. If I get involved in some peel, thrill, lotion, or potion, and I'm taking this Bobo berry to lose weight, well, the value in it is I take it and I eat it, and maybe I lose weight, maybe I don't, but it doesn't do anything to my financial back pocket. At TW3, you take this, you consume it, you digest it, you start using it, you're going to make money. Because maybe you're a Tom that's in this other type of business. Because I think when you came on, you weren't even selling TW3. You were using it as a lead generation tool for another business. And I think you still do, if I understand correctly.
Do.
And
I do.
60% of our membership's that way. So that's why our retention rate is so high, is because there's value in the product. If you never resell it, there's value in the product, just taking some of the, because yes, it's a technical tool, but it's also a coaching tool. Because before you got involved in TW3, did you know how to monetize lead generation? How to make money from engaging clients, whether you sold them anything or not?
No. And when I talk to people, these are the exact words I use. After you've talked to your customer, and let's say you talk to 20 of them a week, just for any kind of number. After you've talked to them 3, 4, 5, 6 times, however many times it gets to they finally say, you know what, Tom, no, thank you. What do you do with them?
Right.
What if there was a way to maybe not sell your product today, but somebody else's, and still make a little money off of the effort you put out?
Or just give them something and make money off of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is exactly where I wanted to go next with this. So we've talked about, and yes, I'm a guy who, when I first got involved, it was strictly as a tool for my existing business. And when I found out and I dug a little deeper and found out what else it could do, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, let me try some of that. And one of the things that I came across mid last year, I think, I knew about it, but I wasn't ready for it. If you recall, I started out at the first level, not because I couldn't afford the third level.
Sure.
I know myself well enough. You put a box full of toys in front of me, I'm going to play with all of them. I'm not going to know the first thing about any of them.
We would have made you useless real quick if you'd gotten everything at once.
I would have done it to myself, I promise you. But one of the things that I find so interesting, and most people do who see this, are the RMP things and how those can be monetized without actually talking to the customer.
Yeah.
Maybe you could shed some light on that.
Yeah. RMP is where we get paid by third parties simply to send them a prospective client. And the way that works is, well, we can use a couple examples. Let's put it in the insurance first. Maybe I send out a campaign and I tell someone, hey, I'll give you a $25 gift card to Starbucks just for the opportunity to talk to you to see if I can save you money on your insurance. So number one, I get paid to give them that $25 gift certificate. I said gift card. It's actually a gift certificate. And then I talk to them. Maybe I sell the insurance, maybe I don't. And I said, well, listen, I stuck out with you, Tom, on your homeowners and your car or your health or your life, but I've got an associate here. I tell you what I'll do. I'll take that gift card and I'll also include a Walmart gift card as well. If you will take just a few moments to talk to this person over here about the other product or insurance product I don't sell. Yeah. Would you do? Okay, great. So I give them another gift card I get paid for. And then I send them over to this other partner that pays me $10, $15, $25 for that lead. So what I've just done, I got money for giving them the gift certificate. I keep saying card, gift certificate for Starbucks, the gift certificate for Walmart, and then sending them over to a call center that sells a different type of insurance that they're paying me. And I never sold them anything.
Right.
And I just monetize that lead. That's called we call it the double dip and capture method at TW3. It's in your step 7 for you members. That's one way. And you say, well, Terry, I'm not in insurance. Tom, I'm not in insurance. I'm not in real estate. I'm the nuances of that particular type of marketing. I would just escape me because I'm not from that. Okay. Do you know what it's like to go out and try to look for a job? Yes, everybody does. So we teach you how to create compelling ad copy to offer hourly and salary jobs to people. And then you basically are getting paid to generate a lead for this headhunting company over here that are looking for people in certain regions of the country to do certain things, maybe work for a Walmart or a Home Depot or a Lowe's or an Edward Jones, depending on, who they are and what credential level they carry. And then in that process, you've got all these opportunity and job seekers. You can say, hey, and if that doesn't work out, call me back. I've got this. Maybe you run across that entrepreneurial minded person that's right for a work from home. Would you like to do what me and Tom does and just recruit people from home and help them find meaningful work that resonates with what their gift sets are? Yeah, I'd love that. Would you like a system that you never did? Tom, we're talking right now. Did I cold call you? No. Are you calling me? Yeah. Did you chase me down? Did you book this appointment? Yeah. How would you like to be in that kind of environment? Oh man, I love it. Well, we've got the tools, training, technology to do that. And so that's the whole TW3 biz op and how we use RMP, because we're giving people hourly jobs and getting paid. And then in that process, sometimes we're recruiting the ones we feel like are right for our business.
And that's a heck of a model. I hope everybody just caught what Terry was talking about. So, and I know you did, but I'm that guy. I'm telling me, and you, that with the system we're talking about, the TW3 platform, I can literally help somebody to find a job. I'm not selling them a thing. I'm not charging them a dime. And we're helping them find a job, which is what they came to us for in the first place. And we're getting paid for that. We're helping first and profiting second.
That's right.
Now, again, going back to what Terry was saying, there are people out there that are looking, they have an entrepreneurial spirit. And that's the next thing I want to touch on. I've been playing with this thought in my head, borrowing from Jeff Foxworthy. You might be an entrepreneur.
If your torch falls in and you kill more than 3 dogs, you might be an entrepreneur.
So what I'd like to get, I think everybody has a different definition, but if you would share with us what you think an entrepreneur, what's that definition mean to you? Not only the good stuff we all hear about, but maybe the stuff some people don't want to talk about. And what I mean by that, Jack, because I don't want to put you on the spot being the only one saying bad stuff. It comes, entrepreneurialism is a great thing.
Yeah.
And with a lot of really high highs, with some considerable low lows. And that determines whether you're going to make it. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an element of manic depression.
That's well put.
in the entrepreneur's life, for sure. But, my kids, Reagan, and a little bit of River, and I don't know if you've met Gabby yet. You will at the conference. But Reagan, especially, he's now in management at a pretty good outfit that I don't know if they're at Chick-fil-A's or up in the
we got him.
Okay.
Yep, we got him.
But he's an actual manager up in the ups now with the local store here, and he tells me all the time, Dad, they'd fire you the next day. you're unemployable. And that an entrepreneur is a misfit. They don't sort of fit in because they've got this thing about them. They see things differently. And they like to color a little bit outside the lines. It's not that they want to be unethical. It's not that they want to do anything immoral or illegal. But for instance, there is a tool, and I'm not going to, because this is paid for information, but I'm going to allude to it so you know what I'm talking about, Tom.
Yep.
But the way we, for instance, the way we create ad copy that's clickable, that process that we teach how to create an ad copy that's clickable, that is what's called in the internet world a hack.
Yep.
I'm using some software and some tools to do something that wasn't created to do. That's not created to do that. I just figured out a hack of how to do it.
Right.
That's the entrepreneur. That entrepreneur is always looking at a business, at a product, at a service, and saying, how can I repurpose this to leverage something that someone else doesn't see to bring greater value?
Right.
Okay. So they're unsettled. Someone told me about 2 years ago, we were offered the opportunity to sell TW3 by a larger brand guru out there.
Okay.
And wanted to bring me on as a salaried consultant to still be a face and be a part. And I wouldn't do it, and they just couldn't believe why. And the reason is because how do you put a static value on a dynamic personality?
You can't.
You can't. You could, Tom, you could offer me $1,000 an hour and I wouldn't take it.
Right.
You could offer me $10,000 an hour. I wouldn't take it.
Right.
An entrepreneur is not going to be told what they're worth. You're just not. And sometimes an entrepreneur can be looked at and judged as someone who's obnoxious. The successful ones, at least, they're a little obnoxious. They're hard to be, and I'm going to allude to someone, and I hope that doesn't distract the audience because it is a lightning. You can get triggered by this term, but I think it's a great illustration. Our current president is an entrepreneur, and his detractors hate him because they can't control him.
Right.
You're not, and whether you agree with him or not, think about it. Here's a guy that's in his 70s. That's been financially successful his whole life. Everything he's done has worked out in some ways. Now you can, like I said, people have different opinions.
Right.
And so all this, but some young buck journalist that comes in making their $40,000 a year that hasn't had the experience to get out of their mom's basement yet, they're still blogging. They're going to try to tell this 70 some odd year old billionaire what you're thinking, the way you do things don't work. He's the president of the United States and he's a billionaire. Now he might be wrong, but in his mind, he's an entrepreneur. And that's that entrepreneur. You're not going to tell me.
And I agree with you a 1,000,000%. And when it occurred to me one day, you know what? I think I'm really not. I think I'm nothing more than an entrepreneur. I just don't know how to go about it. And the way it came to me was I thought back over my experience as an employee, how many times I either thought or vocalized, you know what? I could do this a hell of a lot better than this guy is.
Absolutely.
And then I also look at the other side of that coin. I follow a lot of guys, including Grant Cardone. He is actually a guy who trained me in the car business many, many moons ago.
Yeah.
When I say he did not work where I did, he was one of the first speakers I saw as a car trainer. But one of the things he always says is everybody wants to be the boss, but nobody wants to write a damn check.
That's right.
So when I arrived at the situation that, hey, you know what? You might be better working for yourself. You're certainly not afraid to write a check. You're certainly not afraid to have somebody call you names.
All right.
Why would you work for somebody else? And you're always saying, I'm worth more money. Go prove it, tough guy. And that is where I consider an entrepreneur.
The reason I got the courage to start my music business is because when I went to work even though I was a salesperson, I still consider myself self-employed because I negotiated something that was different than everybody else. Everybody there was salary plus. They'd give you a salary and they'd bonus it out. I said, don't give me benefits. Don't give me anything. Treat me as a 1099 consultant and pay me straight up commission. But I want my commission level to be this. And so I walked away and they said, and they loved it. They said, sure, you would come here. And if you didn't perform, we're not on hook. Yeah. And I started seeing things years later. It's like, it ought to be done this way. It ought to be done this way. And the owner says, well, we're about to sell. You know, if you don't like the way I do things, buy me out because we're about to sell. That's, you know, I was talking in the story. And that's
Right.
what gave me the courage to go ahead. And I've been working for myself this whole time. Why not go ahead and just have my own thing?
Right. And and I think you just hit it on the head. That is where an entrepreneur mindset starts.
Yeah.
So easing that into, and this is for those that are, again, in lockdown. You know, all of us, we've had to change schedules. We've had to cancel events. Um, we've had so much change and so many restrictions, for lack of a better word. How do those of us that do what we do, what would be the advice we give people that are just getting started on that journey? Or maybe they are saying, you know what, I'm ready to take a leap of some kind. What does that mindset need to look like? Or at least, what do you do to say, okay, here we are, but this too shall pass, and this is what I'm going to do until it does?
Yeah, so some of the things I'm doing to stay focused, because I think right now your biggest challenge as an entrepreneur is always staying focused. Number
Right.
one, the biggest hurdle that an entrepreneur will have to face is focus, and I say focus is follow one course until you're successful. If you're opportunity shopping and you're out there hopping from one opportunity to the next opportunity, the next opportunity, you are doing yourself a major disservice. I'm not saying you should stay in a business forever. I'm saying you ought to learn that business to be somewhat successful before you jump off to the next one. Because, you know, as my pastor said, you're always going to be going around the same mountain until you learn the lesson that you're supposed to learn. And so I honestly think, you know, in this time, especially, you need to be connecting with like-minded people. And that's what, you know, one of the things I did, Tom, I've always been part of this other mastermind group that I attend. Well, and it was, you know, I paid a few $100s a month to be in it. And I just sort of said, I want to up my game this year and I want to be able to bring more value to my members. And so I joined a mastermind group that I don't mind telling you, it's about $25,000 to be a part of.
Right.
And people say, you're crazy. You're spending that money just to hang out for an hour a week with some people. Yes. And I can tell you it's already paid for itself. And I've only been a part of it for a month.
Sure.
And so I would tell you, and I'm not telling you to go out and spend money you don't have. I'm just been fortunate enough and blessed enough that the good Lord has seen fit to allow me to have some of these opportunities. But wherever you're at, whatever your budget is, get connected, even at the expense of finance or time or both, but get connected with other people that are going and growing in the same direction. Because negativity and voices of doom and gloom, that comes free.
Yep.
But there's no, you can turn on the news right now and CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all of them will tell you the sky's falling from one reason or the other. They'll, depending on who you listen to, they'll blame whichever, but everybody's negative, no matter who you're listening to.
Yep.
And I'm not saying you need to be ignorant of the life and the world we live in, but I am saying this: we need to be insulated, not isolated. I'm not isolated from it. I'm aware. I'm cognitive. But as far as me and my house, this is what we're doing. This is what we're thinking about. This is what we're regurgitating. This is what we're moving toward. And the things that help me is being around other people that are in similar positions that I am, or people that are above where I'm at that I aspire to be. I want to be around those and I want to hear from them. I want to know, how are you facing this challenge? How are you facing this challenge? And I want to learn from it. So I think, you know, in this time of quarantine and being socially separate, you need to be intentional about connecting with a lot of other like-minded people. And that's one of the things I love about what we're doing at TW3, especially for our elites. We've brought the mastermind to 9 o'clock, and we're doing that on a regular basis so we can have more time with our elite members. So
Yeah. And as an elite member, I am excited because I get to go to bed a little earlier on Wednesday now.
that's right. You and me both, brother. And I'm on the East Coast, so
Right. Um, so I just want to make one final point here, because I've taken almost an hour of your time already, and for that I am grateful. But one of the things that we mentioned on this show when all of this began, Um, the question I pose the audience is, what are you going to do with the time? And it was not about me trying to sell them TW3 or anything for that matter.
Sure.
But what I was trying to allude to is, how many times over the course of our lives can we look back and say, you know what? When I have the time, I'm going to open a business. When I have the time, I'm going to learn how to play a guitar. When I have the time, we've all used that at some point in time. And then all of a sudden, and nobody expected it, holy cow, we have the time.
All right.
So, one of the things that I've always been a big proponent of, if you want to earn more money, you need to do something different. And one of those things doing different is you have to learn a new skill. You
That's
don't have
right.
to learn 100 of them, just one. So, when I talk about what are you doing with this time, and it looks like, at least in my state, we have at least another month, maybe more if our governor here has his way, and that's another show. Um, how important is it, in your opinion, to buck the idea of I'm on vacation for my third month in a row and do something that will help you, regardless of how that makes you feel, what that help is? Do I want to be a do I want to be a distance runner? Do I want to be a guitar player? Do I want to be a business owner? How do you say? How do you import that use of time?
Yeah, I mean, now's the time to do those things that you always dreamed about, but always gave the excuse of time and money. Because believe it or not, there's opportunities to earn right now that doesn't cost hardly anything. You can get started, very little out of pocket. So, time and money doesn't need to be an excuse. Now, I'm not saying that that's right for everyone, but for those who can afford to spend just a few dollars a month and spend, a few hours a day to pick up a new skill set and learn a new, improve a mindset and learn a business model that's not intuitive. Most people, if you've never done online marketing the way we've done it, then you might have done online marketing, but I can guarantee you haven't done it the way the TW3 method. It's just so out of the box and different.
Right.
And I say that uh, by repeating what people in mastermind groups that have big networks like I do that teach this stuff that are household names in this space have told me. Said, how did you come? And it's just, I just shake my head. I was like, guys, I didn't read it in a book. I didn't study it. If you're a religious person, let me just say it was probably inspired by the Holy Spirit. If you're not a religious person, well, a blind hog finds an acorn every once in a while. I don't know. I just got dumb luck, whatever, but we do things differently and they work. It's that's the thing. It just, it'd be one thing if it just worked for me, or it'd be one thing if it just worked for Tom or misspelling B or Greenbacks or Quackenbush or Bam Bam, but all of these people that you hear about from Tom and others, my prayer was, God, give me something that I can do to make money and it's duplicatable. And we've seen so many people duplicate it. So I would just tell you, take this time right now that you've been given. The Greeks call it a kairos moment, a special dispensation in time. Because who knows? I mean, everything might open back up next week. We hope, we pray. But if it don't, seize the moment. Carpe diem, as the movie goes, seize the moment that you're in right now
Right.
and increase, improve, and expand your digital footprint. Because the reason our business is exploding, Tom, I really believe is because we're online. And so a social distancing mandate doesn't affect us. And so
Right.
if you're in the restaurant business, if you're in any type of other business, figure out a way to get more and more of your business and your services online. And these are the tools that do that. I mean, we are providing services now for about 12 different restaurants here locally, where we're doing bulk texting and sending orders to landing pages, and we redirect a form to go out to the delivery service. All of these, how we doing it.
Sure.
But we're setting up to where
Yep.
mom and pop shops that never did delivery can do delivery now and compete with the big boys. And so they're paying a premium for us to do that. And I'm saying, if you're already in that space, go ahead and buy these tools and get them so you can sharpen your skills so that when this thing goes away, great, you got your traditional way that you've always done business, but now you've got this new income stream and new business model that will withstand some of this. Because if there is a second wave or whatever they're talking about, then you're ready for it. And if there's
Right.
not, knock on wood, thank God, and keep moving forward.
Absolutely. That is exactly what I've been trying to get across. I thank you for putting it in far better words than I do. Um, like I say, we're near the end here, and I can't thank you enough for joining us, Terry. And those of you in the audience who have a question, now is the time to get them in if you haven't. Terry, I'd like to ask a favor of you.
Sure.
And I'll tell you why. Do you have a copy of your book near you?
Well, as a matter of fact, I do.
If you'd pop that up there for me, I'm going to tell everybody out there listening. I have this book on 2 different formats. It is worth every bit of the time it takes to read it. And anybody who asks for this, I will send it to you at my expense. And Terry, you and I will talk about it off camera, because I want to get this in your hand. And for Terry, not near as impressive as a book because I have not written one. However, I'm a practical guy, and there is not a desk on the planet I'm aware of that doesn't have a coffee cup on it.
Oh, I got to get one of those.
I'm going to send you a few of these, Terry, for being so kind as to hang out with us and talk to our people.
Absolutely.
And when we go off camera here, I'll get the. You just tell me where to send them. Um, any last thoughts? Anything that you have that you can impart on those of us that are interested in what we do?
Well, I can just say to your audience, I know Tom away from this show, and he's the real deal. And you won't find a better career coach and mentor than him and Frank. I mean, these guys are just rock stars in our business. And I've had you on my show simply because I like promoting people like you, because it's one thing to be successful and make money. I'm not knocking that. And we've got a lot of people that are doing well, but it's another thing that to be that and do it right. And you, Tom, you do it right. And I just thank you so much for allowing me to be on your show and pour time and energy into your people, and hope we brought some value today.
Well, I promise you did, and again, I can't thank you enough from Frank and myself. Frank has jumped in with some comments here and there, and helped keep the show moving with comments. So we thank you from our 2 cents. My audience is more than happy to hear what you have just shared, and I am going to see you again tomorrow during the elite training.
Yeah.
And I mean, where else can we, as business owners involved with the TW3 platform, can we call up the guy who owns the place, who's busier than 10 guys in a bar fight, and he'll spend his time talking to us and sharing his wisdom. So for that, I thank you. I wish you the best of the rest of the day, and I will see you again tomorrow.
Sounds great, brother. Thank you,
Terry.